Good morning, dear students of third year in the translation department with our subject novel, particularly The Return of the Native by Thomas Hardy. We are still with book 1, The Three Women. This is the title of book 1, as Hardy has chosen, and chapter 1, A Face on Which Time Makes But Little Impression. You've tried to find out the meanings uh, of chapter 1, English, in an English dictionary. Now we will read some of the paragraphs and try to explain them. First of all, Thomas Hardy has lived or witnessed 2 centuries. He was born in 1840 and died on 1928. He witnessed the Victorian age and the beginning uh, of the 20th century. You can say he's a transitional writer. His chapter 1 in our novel, The Return of the Native, characterizes Egdon Heath as we've said before. There are no characters, no human beings, only a description of a place, a landscape. It is portrayed as rugged and unforgiving heath, and at the same time with unorthodox beauty. So the narrator, uh, described a contrast in this land, a beauty and at the same time ruggedness. Did you read chapter 1? If you have read chapter 1, you can understand easily what I'm saying. If you check the meanings and the vocabularies in an English dictionary and did not borrow them from the internet, again, you have a great chance of learning English. But if you did not, you are still in your own place and on your own level. Did not progress. You want to progress? Read the text, find the meanings, try to write an analysis. Today, I'll show you how to analyze the chapter, to analyze the description of Egdon Heath. This is a paragraph written in chapter 1. This is the first paragraph. We read it before, and I'll read it quickly. A Saturday afternoon in November was approaching the time of twilight, and the vast tract of unenclosed wild known as Egdon Heath embrowned itself moment by moment. Overhead, the hollow stretch of whitish cloud shutting out the sky was as a tent which had the whole heath for its floor. The heaven being spread with its pallid screen, and the earth with its darkest vegetation, the meeting line at the horizon was clearly marked. In such contrast, the heath, so there is a contrast. Did you notice the contrast? Darkest, and the color of the sky, of heaven, here heaven means the sky, and the darkness of the vegetation of Egdon Heath. In such contrast, the heath wore the appearance of an installment of night which had taken up its place before its astronomical hour was come. Darkness, he uses a colon to explain, to clarify. Darkness had to a great extent arrived hereon, while day stood distinct in the sky. Another contrast. Darkness arrived hereon on where? On Egdon Heath, on the land, while day stood in the sky, distinct, different in its own kind. Here we will start with a description of this Egdon Heath. Notice I highlighted the initial letters E in Egdon and H, not H. H, check the dictionary, in Heath. I told you it's a proper noun, you have to write it with uppercase initials, uppercase E and uppercase H. Read the first paragraph. We read it. I colored some of the words. November was approaching the time of twilight. What is twilight? And a vast tract of unenclosed wild. We mentioned what is unenclosed. Wild. Known as Egdon Heath. So Egdon Heath is a wild landscape. Embrowned itself moment by moment. Why moment by moment? Let's see. The narrator means that near twilight on a Saturday in November, the twilight is near, twilight approaches, he says here, approaching, near. Egdon Heath, simply Egdon Heath turns dark slowly. How do I know slowly? Let's see. First of all, the word twilight I asked you about. Faint light. Faint. What is faint? Light at the end of the day. Day, not the 24 hours, but the day. By day, I mean the end of sunshine, the end of sunrise. From sunrise till sunset, this is called day. With the sunset, this is evening. So faint light is the meaning of twilight. There's a faint, there's a little light. So you see here, approaching the time of twilight in the vast tract of unenclosed wild. Wild refers to a land that is not changed by people. A human being, an animal, a land, not changed by people. Or it has another meaning, in its natural state. Embrowned itself moment by moment, it means that the heath is becoming dark slowly, moment by moment, moment after a moment. It is embrowned, becoming brown. The narrator, by using these qualities, these words, he describes sundown on Egdon Heath, sunset, evening on Egdon Heath, simply with these words. But he wants you to imagine how dark is coming slowly, approaching slowly Egdon Heath. That's why it is called literature, fiction, imagination. I quote here another sentence, another clause from the paragraph I've read. Darkness, do you see these three dots? Because I deleted some of the words. I started my quotation from the word darkness. But it is not the beginning of the quotation, that's why I used 3 dots. Darkness had to a great extent arrived hereon, while day stood distinct in the sky. The contrast I mentioned in the previous slide, darkness versus day. Darkness in literature, when you say darkness, when the writer uses the word darkness, and frequently, not only once, you can deduct that it is a symbol of secrecy, a symbol of death, a symbol of evil. Day or daylight is distinct. You see here, while they stood distinct in the sky. Distinct, that's to say, of a different kind. Different kind, it means that here the idea of of contrast appears between day and darkness. Between day and darkness. Did you notice the gradual darkness on Egdon Heath while the time is in sunset? Let's see. First of all, he says, the narrator says, Saturday afternoon was approaching twilight. Twilight, we said, faint light. Light is diminishing. And more, Egdon Heath embrowned itself, becoming brown, moment by moment, gradually. After that, the cloud that shut the sky, which was like a tent, here you have a simile as a tent, a cloud like a tent, this is a simile. The whole heath for its floor, and the heath is the floor for this tent. Let's concentrate on the gradual darkness. The heaven being spread with its pallid screen, and the earth with its darkest vegetation. The vegetation of the land increases the darkness of sunset, the darkness of evening. Do you see? Twilight, faint light, then it is embrowned till it reached to darkness. Darkness had to a great extent arrived hereon. Gradually, darkness arrived. Approach of darkness again is symbolic for what? If darkness is a symbol for secrecy, death, evil, it seems that the narrator wants us to anticipate evil or death or secrecy in the text, in the coming chapters. Please write what I say. Don't depend only on the video lecture, on what is written here, but write what I elaborate, what I clarify. Note again that Hardy devotes the entire first chapter of this novel to a description of Egdon Heath. The whole chapter is devoted to Egdon Heath. But not only that, the way he described Egdon Heath is more significant, I think. How does the landscape appear to the readers? When you read chapter 1, how did you see Egdon Heath? What do you think of the landscape, this landscape called Egdon Heath, or this land? Let's see this idea. The residents of the heath might imagine themselves to have civilized their native environment. But in truth, the heath remains wild, with a character of its own that asserts its will over its human dwellers. Dwellers, inhabitants, residents, dwellers, residents, the same meaning. More, I'll clarify it more. It means that the residents, the dwellers, the people, the peasants could not change the land, could not change the environment they live in. It is wild, not changed, and its character affects their own characters. Now, let's ask ourselves this question. Did the peasants cultivate the land? Cultivate. You know what is cultivate? What is peasant? Farmers. The villagers who live in Egdon Heath, did they cultivate the land? As a physical object, Egdon Heath is described as inviolate, untouchable, and unalterable. You cannot be changed. Untouchable. Man cannot change it. unalterable by man. But the word man here in this sentence refers to human beings, not to man and woman, the opposite of woman. It refers to human beings. Because it is an ancient space shaped by nature, seemingly impervious to the efforts of man. Impervious avoids the efforts of man. A description again. We will continue the description of Egdon Heath in chapter 1. The narrator says the face of the heath, by its mere complexion, added half an hour to evening. The face of the heath, by its mere complexion, you know that the vegetation, I'm repeating, the vegetation of Egdon Heath made Egdon Heath look brown. Here, the narrator is saying, because of this brown color, evening, a half an hour is added to evening. What does it mean? You know, evening is dark. The beginning of evening is the beginning of darkness, of night. The brown color of, because you know, we mentioned that there are no trees, the land is covered with firs and the sparky plantation or plants. This brown color, as if darkened evening half an hour, adds to the darkness of the evening half an hour. I'm explaining, so please write. It could, in like manner, retard the dawn, sadden noon, anticipate the frowning of storms scarcely generated, and intensify the opacity of a moonless midnight, to a cause of shaking and dread. Do you see these quotation marks? I quoted this paragraph from chapter 1. These are not my words, these are the words of Hardy on the tongue of the narrator. What does he mean here? The face of the heath by its mere complexion. Notice the personification. You will ask me, what is a personification? What is a personification? You studied personification the first year. However, this is a definition. Personification is a figure of speech. It is the practice of representing objects, qualities, places, whatever, etc., as humans. Where does this practice happen? It happens in literature. When the writer uses this figure of speech, like the simile, like imagery, here in personification, he uses human qualities, and uses human qualities for objects, for places. Human being has a peculiar qualities different from inanimate objects. And Egdon Heath is an inanimate object, a land. It's a land, inanimate, but humans are animate. The writer borrows qualities from humans and ascribe them to objects, to qualities, to places. Here, the sentence you've read here is one of these, is an example of personification. What did he do? Hardy personified Egdon Heath. How? He ascribed to it human qualities. What is this human quality? In the words face and complexion. You know face, but do you know complexion? The skin. Your skin. What is the color of your skin? As if Egdon Heath has a complexion, and this complexion has a brown color, and this brown color causes evening to look darker, as if adding half an hour. For example, if it is 7 o'clock, it looks like 7.5, half an hour uh, to evening. If it is 7:30, it looks as if 8 o'clock, because of the color of this complexion, or because of the color of the face of heat. What more does this complexion or face do to dawn? Retard dawn. What is retard dawn? Make dawn late. Retard it. Make dawn late. And sadden noon. Makes noon sad. And anticipate storms. When it is dark, you anticipate a storm or anticipate raining. Here, the face and the complexion of Egdon Heath anticipate storms, and a frowning storm. Frowning again is a characteristic used for human beings. The writer employs it for a storm to present personification. If we want to write a sentence, we will say the face of the heath by its mere complexion. In this sentence, face and complexion are human qualities, but the novelist uses these qualities to describe the heath. Why? I'll repeat. Do you remember when I told you that Egdon Heath is presented like a person? Here again, here are the points where Egdon Heath is described as a person. The first thing is you have here face and complexion. Face and complexion. What else? Let's have a second example of personification. On personification of Egdon Heath. The narrator says, the somber stretch of rounds and hollows seemed to rise and meet the evening gloom in pure sympathy. The heath exhaling darkness as rapidly as heavens precipitated it. What is exhale? The heath exhales darkness. What is exhale? You know, exhaling and inhaling. Again, this is a characteristic for human beings and for animals, for animate beings, not for inanimate objects. The writer wants to say that the heath exhales darkness, spreads darkness rapidly, just like heavens precipitated it, just like heavens, the sky, heavens precipitated darkness. This is a second example of personification. If you do not understand, please write your questions and send them to the classroom. The word gloom, again, gloom, that is synonymous with darkness. Evening gloom. Do you remember the gradual approach of darkness? Twilight, then browning, embrowned, then darkness. You have another word, gloom. We should ask ourselves, why the writer emphasizes the word darkness, gloom, twilight, embrowned. I told you that darkness is a symbol of secrecy, a symbol of death, a symbol of evil. Does the writer want to say that death will happen in the coming chapters? there is death in the coming chapters, or there is evil in the coming chapters. Anything the writer presents or uses or describes, any imagery, any personification has a purpose, prepares you as a reader or me as a reader that something will, that to anticipate what will happen, not to be surprised. Another paragraph, again from chapter 1, quoted from chapter 1. Only in summer days of highest feather did its mood touch the level of gaiety. What is gaiety? The writer here presented something contrastive to darkness, gaiety, happiness, fun. There is a touch of fun on Egdon Heath. It is not all darkness. Do you remember the first sentence I said? Egdon Heath is both beautiful and rugged. Here is another contrast: darkness and gaiety. Intensity was more usually reached by way of the solemn than by way of the brilliant, and such a sort of intensity was often arrived at during winter darkness, tempests, and mists. Then Egdon was aroused to reciprocity, for the storm was its lover and wind its friend. Again, friend, lover are used to personify Egdon Heath and to personify storm and wind on Egdon Heath. What more on Egdon Heath? What else the writer described in Egdon Heath? He describes Egdon Heath as a titanic form, as having a titanic form. Titanic means great, colossal, huge, wide, great, open, wild. Not only wild, but a great wild, a titanic form. The narrator depicts the heath's avoidance of all simple descriptions. More, when you read the chapter, you can see that the narrator emphasizes this idea that the heath avoids of all simple descriptions. The heath avoids all simple descriptions. It is so much greater than civilized man that it defies his attempts at limiting and defining it. It cannot be limited, cannot be defined, because of its wideness, because it is ancient, because it is titanic, because it is wild. Read this paragraph from chapter 1. It was at present a place perfectly accordant with man's nature. It looks like man's nature. How is man's nature? Human being's nature develops, is not of one side, but it is dimensional. It does not have one kind of feelings. One can look at someone as hateful, the other can say no, he's beautiful. How? But according to the writer, how does the land is accordant with man's nature? He means neither ghastly. What is ghastly? Horrifying. Ghastly, horrifying. Nor hateful, nor ugly. Neither ghastly, hateful, nor ugly. Neither commonplace. What's commonplace? Ordinary. Unmeaning, nor tame. It is not tame. What is not tame? What is not tame? Untamed. Check it. Look it up in the dictionary. But like man, again, with man's nature, like man. The emphasis that Egdon Heath is a character, not not only a landscape, not only a setting, not only an environment, but it is like man, slighted and enduring, and withal singularly colossal and mysterious. Colossal, great, titanic, wide, and mysterious, mysterious, secrecy, something secret we don't know, something mysterious we cannot explain in it, in its swarthy monotony. Monotony does not change. So in its monotony, it is colossal and mysterious, it is slighted and enduring, it is like man. And with some persons who have long lived apart, solitude seemed to look out of its countenance. It had a lonely face, suggesting tragical possibilities. The writer moves from darkness to gaiety to tragical possibilities. Just like life. And this is life. Life has ups and downs. But with Egdon Heath, the matter is more emphasized. The matter of downs, tragical, tragedy is anticipated. We as a reader anticipate tragedy. The- Here there is another example of a lonely face. There are many. I took only some of them of personification. It has a lonely face, suggesting tragical possibilities. This is what the writer says, or what the narrator says. This is what the narrator has said. He said, the heath is described as a physical object again, physical object like human beings. The narrator emphasizes this characteristic to prepare the reader for the impressive role the heath will play. Play where? In the life of the characters in the novel. The characters in the novel. Do you know the characters in the novel? You did not meet them yet. We have Eustacia. We have Clemio Bright. I mentioned Clemio Bright. We have Wilduff, the Riddle Man, and on the course of the events, not only on life, but on the course of the events. Anything you want to know, please send your questions to the classroom. This is the end of the lecture. Wish you best of luck.